everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Orange Zeppelin, and no, I don't know why my hair is sticking out at a 90-degree angle. It's having one of those days where it doesn't want to cooperate, which, I don't know, maybe I'm having one of those days too, where it's just, I am gonna just have a nice chill day. We're gonna kick back with a drink and do some very chill art. I'm actually gonna use a medium that I'm not very good with, and that I think a lot of people will agree is a bit of a tricky beast. We're going to be doing some oil pastels, and I actually very often use pastels when I'm planning paintings, but I don't do a lot of just finished pastel work. So my goal today is just, I'm going to do something with pastels, and I'm not going to worry about if it's a giant mess or not. It might be a giant mess, but you know, if you go in expecting a mess and you create a masterpiece, then it's great, because then you've wildly exceeded your expectations. If you expect a mess and you get a mess, it's like, just as I predicted. If you want to see some really good pastel art, you should look up Black Bean CMS here on YouTube. He does really fantastic pastel portraits, very colorful, very detailed. He knows what he's doing. He is incredibly inspiring to watch. So I did do like a little bit of practice oil pastel stuff, but for the most part we're just going in without any plans, without really any expectations. But actually, first thing, it's been a little bit since I have last done a studio tour, so I'm going to show you around and you can see what's changed. Actually did some shuffling around with my comics. I've got all my Dragon Ball comics, really all my Akira Toriyama comics spread out on the shelf as they should be. I've got my Dragon Quest games on display also. I pretty much left everything as is today. I could have tidied up, but it's like, is anything ever really tidy? And I think it's more realistic so you can see the general working state of the Artcave. But I did condense my music shelf, so I've got a little more space to put my coffee, put my whiskey cups. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen my old setup, my desk actually used to be on that side of the room, and I've switched everything over here, and this works a lot better because I do have this little shelf here. My stereo is at hand. I've kind of worked all of my art supplies into this little corner, with an exception of some things I have in a storage container, and then I can also use my bed as a secondary desk, so I basically have, I am surrounded on all sides by space to spread out in. Also, my cats can sit there and supervise me, so they like that more. I also, from that Dragon Ball shelf, I moved all of my handheld gaming stuff onto this shelf. It is way more accessible. I can actually reach everything now. I wanted to have all my Pokemon treasures on display. I want to get this professionally graded because I think that would be really funny. This survived a trip through the washing machine, so good thing that Geodude had sturdy and was able to survive that. This was a surprise. This came with, actually, let me show you. I ordered this Game Boy SP off of eBay because mine has some pretty nasty screen burn that I don't know how to fix. And it came with that Pokemon card. I really appreciated that. I am realizing I could totally put like a really small old TV on one of these shelves and like put my Nintendo 64 or something. I'd have to move all my comics though, so I think that would get kind of complicated because this room is basically Tetris as it is. But most important for the topic of the video, down here on the bottom shelf, but certainly not bottom shelf product, is my little whiskey collection. Now, around the time I posted my last video, I did a poll on what should my next Scotch purchase be, and Glenfiddich 12 was actually the only one with no votes, but I thought this container was really cool, so I was like, I need to buy that. That's cool. That is very cool. Let me give you a better look at that. Lighting's not very good down here on the floor. Let's relocate. Here we go. That's much better. Now you can see the cool art on there. I kind of had an adventure getting it home because I had got it at the grocery store. I got some other things with me, and I needed to fit it all into my bike basket, and I did discover that this right here, this size, that basically is the width of my bike basket. So wrapping this in my sweatshirt, having it horizontal and carefully nestled didn't exactly work, so it was more like at an angle, everything piled awkwardly. And let me tell you, trying to ride your bike home and just hearing like that the entire time, like, can you feel your blood pressure rising? That was a little nerve-wracking. So that's a lesson learned. Next time I'm probably going to bring my backpack and just have it in my backpack so it's not driving me insane with the rattling. Alright, so I have a little ice in here because I actually have not drank this with ice yet. I usually don't add any water or anything. I just drink everything straight. Actually, now that I said that, that's not true because I found out that Glenlivet and lemonade is a very tasty combination. But this I haven't combined with anything. Actually, that's not true either because I actually made a glaze for some banana bread scones using this and maple and powdered sugar, but I haven't had it with ice yet. So, slancheva, Arjun. Definitely the ice and the melting ice, adding the water, has mellowed that out a little bit. It was very peppery when I first tried it, especially on the neck pour. I thought it was a lot more peppery, but they always say don't trust a neck pour, just wait until it gets a little bit further down onto the label, and then it's like that's where you're getting the actual scotch. That might be kind of whiskey nerd stuff, and maybe the average drinker is like, what the hell are you talking about? I think I really do like that with the ice, though, because it did mellow it out and make it a little more refreshing. Finish of this, I think it's like kind of a sweet honey-like finish. I'm not very good at picking out individual flavors. When I started drinking whiskey, it was more like, yeah, that tastes like whiskey. Enough yapping about that. Let's get to making some art, shall we? So all this whiskey talk is leading to the subject of today's art session. We are going to draw Lemmy Kilmister of Motorhead. He, of course, was a Jack Daniels guy, apparently an entire bottle a day, which I'm on one glass a week. One small glass a week, so I'm a little behind. I don't think a full bottle is anything to aspire to. And I did not actually plan this on purpose. It was kind of just a happy accident, as I had this video idea already in mind, and then that statue of Lemmy has just been unveiled. So it's like, yes, the universe has blessed this video concept. Alright, now we are cooking. I'm using this particular picture of Lemmy as my reference because I really liked his expression here. I wanted to do a fun expression. I was told by, I think, my 11th grade English teacher that I'm good at expressions, and I decided I wanted to lean into that, and hopefully I've improved in the 16 years since then. I think that Lemmy had an absolutely wonderful face for drawing. He can be just rough and messy. It still feels like Lemmy. I did try a little bit of blending with the pastel. They do blend reasonably well, but I didn't really like the result of the blending, so it's really only in the base layers, and you'll see later on I try to blend his hair a bit. I wanted to have as much line work just left alone as possible. I wanted lines and gesture, not have just a big bowl of Lemmy soup. For the most part, I don't work large scale, so this was a little bit different for me, but I do want to push myself more to do different things, and today is really all about having fun. And you will see I had to change seats pretty early on. You might be able to see. So I moved my chair out of the way. I used my little stool instead, and it was much easier to get out of that spot than when I was in the chair. And when I was in the chair, I was kind of in a weird position that was straining my back. But with this stool, I feel like this is a pretty good combination. This is a good filming setup for any time in the future that I'd want to film myself painting or working on a large scale. Part of my reasoning for picking Lemmy as my subject, other than me getting into whiskey, is that Lemmy has traits that I'm really trying to cultivate in myself. Lemmy was a rough and tough looking dude, but all accounts I've heard is that he was a pretty nice guy, a down-to-earth guy. But he also was not hesitant to speak his mind. He had very strong opinions, and he definitely would not tolerate any level of bullshit. I was recently in a situation where I did have to, set a boundary, or rather drop a pretty huge reality check on someone who I think might have been allergic to reality checks, and, well, I think it didn't help him any. It definitely took the weight of the world off of my shoulders. I will be the best friend I can be, but if you just keep, I don't know, having sex with beehives and it goes poorly for you every time, and every time I see you, you just complain about how having sex with a beehive went poorly for you, but you keep doing it, I'm gonna lose my patience. Just like everybody else has lost their patience. And what does that have to do with Lemmy? I don't know. I think I lost the thread there. Somewhere in here, you'll see I poured a second glass of whiskey. This time it was Glenlivet 12, and that wasn't a great idea, as soon as I took that drink, I realized I had had more glasses of whiskey than actual meals, and it hit my head pretty abruptly. Also, my breakfast that day was one of those banana bread scones with whiskey glaze I was talking about. So I took a little lunch break. I did not emulate Lemmy's choice of cold spaghetti. I can't do coffee on an empty stomach either. It just makes me tweak out. I also had some little Ritz crackers with peanut butter, sandwiched together, a little hot honey. Very, very tasty. And now I was nourished and ready to work again. And you can see my lipstick is gone at one point. That is post-break. So the life lessons that we're learning from this episode, it's please drink responsibly, don't have sex with beehives, or something. Well, on that weird note, I think it's a good time for an update on the goings-on in the Artcave. The most exciting thing is that Samurai Goblin Issue 2 is finished. It is already up online to read for free, so I'm going to have that linked below in the video description. It has a really badass cover, 2 covers actually that were done by different artists. I really, really, really like what they've done. And I am going to be dropping a video, hopefully next week, about my whole process of working on Samurai Goblin 2, basically breaking down what my comic making process is, so stay tuned for that. There is going to be an issue 3, but it's in quite a few months, so I'm going to be working on any stray projects I have built up. Some of them are going to be pretty big, a few things are time sensitive, but I am excited and I'm looking forward to painting again. I do have a backlog of video plans. They're all going to take a lot of time, but my goal right now is just I'm going to pace myself, tackle everything one chunk at a time. I've been kind of battling burnout on and off for a while, and I always try to work through it, and that's dumb. Don't do that. Actually, what happens is I'll force myself to take some time off, and that's when I just get hit with this explosion of inspiration. And then I put too much on my plate again. And I get kind of burnt out again. It's like, Vitalis, why does this keep happening? But I'm forcing myself to have at least one lazy day a week. Last week I kicked back on a day and I settled in for a nice comfy session of Dragon Quest Builders 2. And I discovered that the really cool aesthetic lava waterfall that I made was actually evaporating my ocean, and when I tried to fix it, it became completely out of control and destroyed a huge area of my map. This is apparently a common problem, is people will add some nice lava to their island and they go off and do something and discover, hey, that lava lake didn't used to be a lake, and it's rapidly becoming a larger lake by the second, and it just becomes completely out of control, and some people have to reset potentially 100+ hour save files because it's just out of control. Well, I had a 300-hour save file, and I would far rather muscle through 3 hours I feel like is an exaggeration, but I think it might have been actually 3 hours of me trying to block lava and scoop it up and just keep it from destroying more of the ocean. So yeah, that's how my day off went. Okay, so it is the next morning. I have my delicious coffee, and having been looking at this all night and having Lemmy looking at me all night, I thought it was done, but I think his hat is too small, so let's fix that. There we go. That is a much better looking hat. That actually is proportional with the rest of his head. And with that, I think I actually am done, and I'm actually really happy with how this turned out, considering this is much larger than I usually work, and it's a medium that I'm not great at, but I had the opportunity to both make a mess and make something really cool. So I hope that the final result is something that Lemmy would look down on and say, hell yeah, I'll drink to that. I mean, Lemmy would probably drink to anything, but still. So let me know what you think of the final result, and also, do you like oil pastels? Do you hate oil pastels? Do you wish you knew how to use them? Because I sure as hell did. Sure as hell wish I knew how to use them, that is, though this kind of looks like I knew what I was doing. And I will see you in the next episode.